Yeah, another great environment, another sellout. So just always have to start by thanking our fans. We're 1-3 in SEC play going into this game, and they still just constantly show up. And we don't win this game without them. So I'll never not appreciate it, and I'll never not be amazed with how incredible our fan base is. So I want to thank each and every one of them from our team for being out there and supporting us. So hard-fought game. Man, ugly game, but I think obviously that's the game that they wanted because that was how they could keep it a low possession game, and they did a good job of kind of slowing the tempo down, and we kind of played at their speed, and they limited us in some areas. I thought our first half defense was as good as it's been all year. We did a great job of just building a wall, communicating our switches. Did a great job of fronting the post. And our one-on-one defense was pretty good. Second half, I thought they kind of tried to spread us out and drive us, and I thought too many times we allowed some easy ones around the rim. But as the game went on, I thought we did a better job of sitting on those right hands and making plays. And, to turn that team over 15 times, they turned it over, I think, 10 times a game, was important. We didn't do a whole lot off of those turnovers. But, for the most part, I thought defensively we were good. We didn't let our offense affect our defense, and that's something that this team has been struggling with throughout the year. And for us to only make 2 threes in that game, and, we missed a ton of layups around the rim, for us to be able to find a way to win that game, that's a positive because offensively we've been really good, and, we got a lot of really, really good looks. Elijah had like 2 or 3 that were, or 2 that were like halfway down. Key had 2 that were halfway down. So we got some really good looks, and obviously we didn't convert. So, Philip Yovic was phenomenal. I think that was like one of the first games that we haven't been doubled in the post this year. Philip listens. So we were like, Philip, go score the basketball this game. Stop looking to pass so much. He said, okay, coach. And that's what he did. He was great. And he's really physical in there. He's really bouncy, and he does a great job of just using his body to score on angles. And, he was the difference in the game tonight. So our 2 freshman bigs, Philip and Sebastian, were incredible and did a great job. And really, really impressed with Tahad tonight. 5 assists, 1 turnover. He probably should have had 12 assists because he did such a great job of getting the ball out and getting to his open teammates. Obviously didn't have the shooting night that he wanted after making 1 early, but only 1 turnover, which was late. Did a pretty good job defensively, kind of sitting down and guarding his man. So did a great job of bouncing back from a tough game on Tuesday. So really proud of Tahad, and Sebastian and Philip were great. So take any questions with that.
Steve, you've talked a lot about not letting your offense affect your defense in that first half when y'all couldn't seem to buy any jumpers. You guys, like you said, played their best first half defense. How proud are you of your guys for doing that? Because that's something you've been harping on all season.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, to go from the effort we gave on Wednesday at Missouri to that effort defensively tonight, and I thought we actually guarded Missouri okay. We just, they made a bunch of shots. Our guys did a really good job tonight of just, being intentional. We had a couple bad possessions where we, let them drive it right, and we got lost on the backside. But for the most part, held that team to 39% from the field, 15 turnovers. So thought our guys did a much better job tonight of just, locking in and trying to have an identity defensively, and, held them down to 67 points. So proud of the guys for, not letting, our poor shooting performance impact what we do defensively.
Coach, you mentioned it already. Philip, story of the game. Sway played a really good game as well. How do you get those guys being so young and this being a breakout moment for them? How do you allow that and almost encourage that down the road for more performances like that?
I mean, they've been pretty consistent. They both played well against Missouri too. Sebastian was just in foul trouble. Philip played really well. He's been playing well since conference play started, so he'll just continue to build off of that. So they've been great. They know how important they are. Sebastian knows that, in order for us to be successful, he's got to be on the floor. So 33 minutes tonight, only, 2 fouls. So There was a couple around the rim I wish he would have been a little more physical and had more of a contest. But for the most part, he did a good job defensively. He does such a good job of just sitting down and guarding his yard. So, to have two freshmen like that can have that big of an impact, is substantial in this league. So they played great, and we're going to need them to continue to play great in order for us to win.
Coach Pearl, you already talked about Yovic, but can you elaborate a little bit more on his maturation this season, about where he was to where he is now, and how you get a young guy like that to come along so consistently to where, again, he was your leading scorer tonight and really showed to be a leader out there on the floor offensively. Yeah,
he was, he's so coachable. Like, he listens to everything you say, even though he may not be able to understand half the words you're saying right now. That's gotten better as time's gone on. But, man, he just, every time you're talking, he's hanging on every word because he wants to just, know exactly what we're doing. And, he's just incredibly coachable, can take tough criticism. And, that's what he did overseas, though. Like, he was a scoring, undersized big over there. Like, that's a lot of what he showed, and a lot of, I think we need to do a better job of putting him in those situations because he's capable of doing that, against some of the teams on our schedule. And we're going to need him to.
I'm sorry, do you think the language barrier maybe makes him focus just a little bit harder than
100%? Yeah, he has to, because, I think when we're speaking, we're communicating very quickly, or not quickly, but there's a lot of information we're trying to get out there. So he's trying to pick up on bits and pieces, and, he obviously watched a lot of film, so he does a great job of paying attention in film. But as the years gone on, the amount of information that he's missing has gone down dramatically. So he's really starting to pick up on everything that we're doing. So the language barrier definitely had a little bit of an impact early, I think, because he's probably overthinking a little bit because he's trying to do the right things and be in the right spots in the right places. Now it's just all right, I know what my role is. I got to go out there and defend. I got to go get vertical at the rim. And, if they're going to start play calling for me in the post, I got to go score the basketball. So he's just, he's a mature kid. He's really coachable. He plays hard. He works hard. He's not soft, and just does so many good things for us. I don't know how many offensive rebounds he has in SEC play, but he's had 2 or 3 every single game. So he just has a great nose for the ball, and does a great job of high pointing it, and coming down with rebounds. So he's been a great spark for us at that position.
Over there, Nathan.
Stephen, obviously not a fun night for Keyshawn in terms of his foul trouble, but he hits those 4 freebies at the end, pretty much putting the game away for you guys. How big was that for him to stay engaged and come up like that late?
Yeah, he's in every huddle clapping and, encouraging his teammates, and that's what we need, when he's not able to affect the game with foul trouble. I don't know what a charge is anymore. I don't. For 5 charges to be called tonight, I got to do a better. I got to go look back and figure out what a primary defender is and what they're entitled to, because I've never seen. I've watched a lot of basketball this year. I've not seen that many charges be called in the game. So we got to make an adjustment if that's how it's going to get officiated, because he does such a great job of seeking contact. But we need him out there on the floor, and he had 4 turnovers tonight. But to his credit, he stayed engaged, he stayed locked in, and then when Coach Bowman did a great job late with some offensive, defensive substitutions. He comes in and makes 4 free throws to kind of seal up the game. So did a good job of keeping his head on straight in a difficult night, to be able to come through for his teammates.
Threes were really key for this team this year. Just until they hit those last couple late, y'all had them under 25%. Just how big was that? I know they were trying to spread you out a little bit more in the second half.
Yeah, we did a pretty good job guarding the 3 ball. There was a couple of penetrations where I didn't like how much we helped. But for the most part, our switching allowed us to keep a body on a body and not let them get a bunch of threes up. Michi makes 3, and 2 of them were just But we showed film of him, making shots from a step inside a half court. So they know that he's capable of doing that. But our guys did a good job, guarding the 3 ball. Thought when we were late, we did a good job of making a multiple effort and contesting it. So really important piece of the game. EJ Walker comes in and makes 2. That wasn't really on the scouting report. But teams are gonna step up in those moments, and he actually played pretty well against Arkansas. So yeah, it was good. Did a pretty solid job. They average 7 in losses and 10 in wins. So if there's a 6 differential, so that's 18 points differential on 3. Like we just shoot our season average, where we win that game by 15, But for us not to make those shots and still continue to defend, that's progress.
Last one right here.
Yeah, and going off of that, I mean, you've been talking about how this team had a top 10 offense coming into the game, but is there any extra value maybe to, at this point in the year, winning an ugly one, winning one where you can't shoot, and then it's just like, hey, you got to defend for all 40 minutes and grind it out?
Yeah, I mean, it shows, that's important, because it's not going to be pretty every night because, one, like teams are going to do things to take away some of your strengths offensively. And when they do that, or if you're just having a bad shooting night, we had a bad shooting night tonight. We missed a ton of easy ones around the rim because we kind of rushed, and they did a pretty good job of being physical around the rim, but we rushed some shots. And, we just didn't have it, from the 3-ball tonight. Even though I thought we had a lot of really good looks. But for this team to be able to grind out a win like that when it's an ugly game, that's important because, not every single one is going to be like Georgia, A&M, and Arkansas. That's going to be all high scoring. We're going to be, making shots. So for us to have the confidence, to see, all right, we can win some of these grind 'em out games because that's what's gonna, that's gonna happen on the road. It might happen on Tuesday, at Ole Miss. So for us to be able to pull one through, playing like that, it's important. It's something that we can draw off of.
Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate you guys.